Hello and welcome, guys. My name is Christoph. I'm the face of Carbon Market News. I'd like to welcome you to the first installment of the series Carbon Market Insider, where I interview or chat with people from inside the carbon markets on more of a podcast format. Today we have with us Jack Cuddigan from Carbonada. This is not a public company that you can invest in. I just thought it would be interesting for you guys to hear a bit of voices of inside the carbon markets. This is the first of, I hope, many interviews. As always, if you enjoy content like this, then please make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. And now let's continue with the first installment of Carbon Market Insider. Hello and welcome, guys, to the first installment of Carbon Market Insider, a podcast format for people inside the carbon markets, talking about their project, talking about their companies. We are here with Jack Cuddigan. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
From Carbonada?
Carbonada.
Carbonada,
Yeah.
a carbon company. He's going to talk about his company, and then we're going to have a bit of back and forth. So, Jack, I would say we start, you tell the people about yourself. How did you get into the carbon business? And
Cool.
yeah, what is your background, basically?
Of course. So Carbonada was founded with myself and two others back sort of just in the autumn of last year. And our aim was to create a company that specializes in the carbon reporting side of things, but also comes up with quite innovative and different solutions to decarbonization for these companies. So it's not only the carbon reporting side, which I think is just box ticking and just doing the carbon calculation side of things. We actually want to find innovative ways to reduce their footprints. So we come up with a sort of decarbonization mix, it's called, which is mostly reductions, but also carbon capture, and then a small bit of offsets, although its main focus is reductions and carbon capture side of things. And then also we've highlighted as sort of the education side of things being massive in the race to net zero. It's not just going to be companies who are going to have to act, it's going to have to be individuals as well. And it's a big part is going to be empowering the workforce and empowering people in everyday life to do small things to help in reducing their personal carbon footprints. So although we're dealing mainly with businesses and the carbon reporting side of things, we're also wanting to go into businesses and educate as well. So through presentations, through corporate away days, and through other ways as well. But my background's not actually in really in the sector at all. It's coming from a food manufacturing background. So I was working for a couple of food manufacturing companies up in the northeast, and so a lot of it was sort of lean production. I was doing the production side of things. One job was making fresh chips, and then the other one was sausages. So completely different, but pretty much the same result of lean manufacturing, trying to make everything really efficient, which is quite relative to this, because obviously a lot of it is reducing waste and parts of that. So we're looking to work with companies in London, and we're following ISO 14064 format, which provides a framework for the accounting and verification of organizations. So it's all verified. And then, as I was saying, through that, we come up with a decarbonization mix, which is slightly different offering from other companies, because we've found a lot of other companies solely do carbon credits, or they do carbon offsets. So they haven't been very creative. They're just looking for that quick sale. They're looking, right, we've done this reporting, and now we're going to eliminate your carbon footprint. But we've also realized that, me coming from a rural background, I've sort of grown up in northeast on farms, that a lot of these tree planter schemes don't work. So a lot of these schemes that are coming in sort of massive areas of fenced off land to have huge Sitka spruce plantations, that are going to eventually harvest these carbon credits. They aren't the solution. They create a sort of monoculture environment, which sort of a dark canopy, nothing's growing underneath. It's not promoting biodiversity at all. So what we're looking to do is sort of move away from that and go to more sort of native woodland planting schemes, such as planting birch and rowan, which before were sort of cast aside by the Woodland Commission and things, but now they're sort of refocusing on native species. But these they enhance sort of biodiversity. They encourage moss life, which obviously which is one of the best carbon capture plants around, and it encourages other sort of native species to grow up underneath it because it provides a sort of lighter environment. So we're going to be working with landowners on that as well, and also things like orchards, which have another use, obviously providing fruit for if it's the local sort of biodiversity, local habitat with creatures, or if it's for local community, they can go and pick fruit. Then it's going down that route as well. So we're being different. We want to be different. We want to have different solutions to other companies. And it's just going about it, slightly different, I guess.
Very cool. No, I have two questions basically. So okay. The first would be you said you focus a lot on prevention of emissions. Did I get that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And my question would be: is there some kind of underlying theme from company to company where you can say, okay, these are kind of like the low-hanging fruit where maybe nobody thinks about it or something, or is it just different from company to company? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's a lot of transferable sort of reduction techniques from company to company. I mean, simple things like just switching off the lights when you leave a room, or not keeping your monitor on when you go for lunch, and turning the air conditioner on when there's no need to have it on. So, I mean, small changes like that, and also waste, and also with the electricity side of things, we're working closely with a company that provides green electricity. So one of the things we go to a company and say, look, you use dirty energy source at the moment to power your electrics. We can transfer that to a green energy source. So I mean, a lot of that is transferable from company to company. But most of the ones we're working with have physical premises, so it's a lot of changing their energy source and reducing the waste and things like that, practices like that.
So it's basically the simple things often that are overlooked, and whereas some people say it's like, hey, this is normal, but for most people apparently it's not normal or so.
Yeah, exactly. It's just having that conscious, just thinking about it. And I think it's almost that herd sort of movement. When one person does it, then it spreads, and someone sees them doing it, someone else does it, and it's just through going into these companies and sort of educating. I mean, it's small things, but just educating, sort of shedding a light on how much they can reduce their carbon footprint, just small activities like this. Then it helps with creating that sort of movement within a company and changing the culture almost to being more green and thinking more about the environment.
Okay, cool. The second question I thought of is a bit from the last topic, is you're actually developing the carbon projects yourself, the company?
So as part of our Bespoke package, so we go to a company and we'll work out their carbon footprint in line with ISO, and then we'll come up with a decarbonization mix. So through reduction strategy, through carbon capture, and then a small bit of offsets. And so through that, we'll sit down with them, with a representative from the company, and we'll come up with, if they want to, I mean, we can do it completely bespoke. They could plant an orchard, they could just do native species, and it'd be their way of sort of sponsoring and having their own project.
So you offer them kind of a menu of possibilities, and then they themselves choose the projects where they want to.
And it's quite good for employee engagement as well. So they can do a questionnaire. How many they can do a questionnaire of, do they want does everyone want to orchard, or do they want to plant native species? I mean, it's a complete blank canvas, and it's a good way of, if they're a sort of a customer-facing company that has a big social media following, they can put questions out to their social media, or yeah, to their email subscriber base. So there's a real sort of to try and get everyone involved in the whole process.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I was thinking, like, when you develop these projects, my question would be, how do you think about which projects to develop or not? But since it is the customer that chooses the projects, then I suppose you don't ask yourself that question.
No, it's a lot easier when they
Yeah,
take
yeah,
but,
a lot, yeah.
But we're happy to. We can, if they just want to give us full autonomy and say, look, you guys sort it out, then we can do that. We can prepare that for them.
And sorry?
No, sorry, continue.
Could you go, like, maybe for an example, like with an orchard or something? How do you develop that project? Let's say I'm a company and I want to have an orchard. How would you go about it?
So we work closely with landowners, sort of farmers up in places like the Borders or north of London. So we'll have close partnerships and relationships, which we already have with landowners, farmers, and then we'll speak to them and develop alongside them as well. So their knowledge will come into the planting side of things.
And do you use a certain carbon standard or certification process for your offsets?
So the offset side of things, we're trying to avoid as much as possible, because we want the reduction and capture side of things. But for the offset side, we're working with Vera.
Okay,
who obviously have their renewable projects in developing countries, which they get a lot of bad publicity, sort of carbon offsets in these projects. But I think it helps out with the decarbonization mix. I think you've got to have them to support these developing countries, because obviously developed countries, we've had our sort of industrialization phase. So we should be helping these developing countries as much as possible to move away from dirty fuels and to establish renewable projects out there. And I think carbon offsets are a good way to get money into these developing countries and into these projects.
Yeah, definitely. I heard also that I mean, I read the standards a bit from Vera, and they're quite how do you say, exact. They want to see a lot. They're not just handing you some kind of like, here, you know, get some credit, sell them. It's more like, okay, you have to really put in the work to document everything. How would you see that? It's quite tedious project, or is it easy, or is it very time?
It's something we haven't looked at with the development side of things. We're literally just purchasing these credits from Vera. I mean,
okay, I understand.
So we're not directly developing the carbon offset side of things. We'll just be purchasing. But they use a third companies come in and verify all their projects. I think they are one of the better verification boards out there.
So you can go directly to them and purchase the credit offsets on their site, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that is good to know, because I'm always interested, like how do the project development side go about it, and the mix of all. But you know, I mean, it's also good that you can just buy from a verified source where you know that something is behind that than they're just handing out credits like that. So
yeah.
Let's change to, how would you, from your perspective, how would you see is the carbon market developing? How are companies running in your door? Is it more, do you have to approach them, or how is the procedure working?
Yeah, so currently there's obviously quite a few similar companies to what we do on the carbon reporting side of things. And it's quite a new company. We have basically tried to get a sort of couple of case studies under our belt, which shows how we're different from the other ones, how we come up with these innovative decarbonization strategies. But it's quite interesting actually. We've had companies come to us about our corporate away days, sort of educating employees and coming and doing talks. That side of thing, companies have been proactively coming to us. On the reporting side of things, it's more proactive. We've got to go out and speak to the right people to get in front of them and to present our case and how we can help them.
And how are people in general responding to this?
Yeah, they're responding really well. I mean, every business realizes that they're going to have to do something eventually, that ESG and sustainability and decarbonization is becoming more and more of an issue by the day, and more or something of an urgency to tackle. So it is slowly becoming more, from our side, slowly becoming more and more of a topic of conversation, and something that people are proactively coming out and finding information on. But I think personally, I think more and more legislation is going to come in with businesses about reducing waste and about trying to hit net zero and carbon reporting. So I believe it will be something that is made almost legislation that companies will have to, all companies, not just large ones, will have to report their emissions.
And you are in the UK, right?
In London at the moment. Yeah.
So how would you say from inside, how would you say is the carbon question developing inside the UK? And how would you see it from how would you see like Europe or other countries from the outside?
Yeah, I think the UK is probably, this is just from my point of view, I think the UK is probably falling behind other countries. I think more definitely needs to be done. And as I was saying earlier, with the wood planting schemes, it seems like a box ticking exercise, and with a lot of legislation, with for example these tree planting schemes, there's not much thought behind the sort of carbon credits. What else are they helping to achieve apart from plant these trees in the ground? Are you going to create a nice habitat for other ecosystems to be created, and, for example, to encourage things like moss, which also capture carbon? Or are they literally just putting this species of tree in the ground just to get this carbon credit, and just to do it almost like a box ticking exercise?
So you would say in the UK there's a lot of these standard tree planting protocols and not anything else, or?
Well, I think from doing quite a bit of sort of research around the subject, I think that is generally the case. I think a lot more needs to be done with sort of rewilding and increasing these sort of, and protecting land as well from being developed on as well. That's personally sort of what I think, but yeah.
But I think we also tend to be biased that always our countries are lagging behind, because in the end I think everyone is a bit, so
yeah, I agree.
I mean some have done more than others, but in general, when we talk about something like net zero or zero carbon emissions, or just like offsetting the rest, I think in general there's a lack of that all around the world. So, and I mean, we could compare ourselves to China or something. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I've never been there in terms of looking at it from the inside, but from the outside, No. So there can always be more, but we also have to be.
Yeah. I mean, if you compare it to China, then I think the UK is doing quite well.
Okay. So what have you got? What has Carbonada planned in the next coming years or a month, or for 2022?
So we're planning to get more clients on board. So currently we've got a couple of clients who are doing corporate away days for. So I'll give you a little taste of what we're doing in that respect. So we've got one client at the moment who are taking 25 of their employees to Brighton, which is about an hour and a half south of London. But it's going to be a sort of net zero sustainability based day. So picking up electric cars, and then they're going on a local produce treasure hunt using physical maps. So they're not allowed to use their phones. So they'll go and source, go and forage their own ingredients, and then they'll turn up at the location. They'll leave their ingredients there, and then we'll have a presentation on sustainability for them, and then a chef will come in and talk about the ingredients, foraging, permaculture, which is also quite a big topic at the moment, and then they'll have master chef type cooking competition, friendly cooking competition between them all in groups, and then after that they'll head back to London. So it's like a typical team building day, looking to increase motivation, team bonding, but also a sustainability aspect to it, which has got quite a bit of interest actually at the moment. So we'll look to develop those sort of corporate away days, and hopefully as well get a few clients on board for the carbon reporting side of things, a few more clients, and then to really sort of stamp our sort of mark on coming up with innovative decarbonisation strategies, and hopefully companies will begin to come to us and ask us for solutions, which is our aim.
Just a quick touch again on the carbon reporting, because I was thinking about it. I did some in my studies. We tried to do life cycle analysis and CO2 analysis. And I always thought it was quite, it's super challenging, because you have like these trillion inputs and you kind of have to do approximation with everything. So do you feel that the side of carbon calculation is good, or is it improvable, or is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? It's definitely room for improvement. And so that's why we want to get it right. So that's why we're following the ISO standard, which is
sure.
global recognition. So we'll follow it to the T. We'll follow it, but that's only a small part of it. That is sort of I was going to say box ticking exercise, but it's working out the carbon footprint, a company's carbon footprint, using their methodology, which is perfect, because once you've got that, then you can come up with different ways to eradicate it. So reduction strategies and carbon capture, which I spoke about before. So I think from the reporting side of things, it's as long as you follow the standard, then you can't really go wrong. But it definitely will develop as the market sort of as more and more as it matures, almost the reporting market.
Yeah. Well, I think we have a good grasp of it. I would like you to say, like, maybe if you want to shout a message to the carbon community or to other carbon companies or whoever is in this space, what would you tell them, or what would be your message?
Yeah.
I mean, you can also then plug your company, but maybe just first a quick note or a long note.
Yeah.
How do you see this getting better? How do you see this developing? How do you see, your message for the future?
I think I see it with everyone working together. We can't be competitors in this industry. We've got to be collaborators. And I think what you're doing is fantastic with creating a sort of community with a forum and getting people on to do the podcast, because I think it's great to share ideas. It's great to evolve. And we're all trying to get to the same place, which is net zero. So it's only going to benefit the industry. And I think just suggesting one or two ways to reduce personal carbon footprints or reduce companies' carbon footprints will help enormously. So we've got to have a collaborative approach and not a sort of competitor approach, which is crucial.
Yeah, I think it's when I look at it, then I'm like, okay, well, if we take this seriously at one point, there's going to be so much, I don't want to say opportunity, but opportunity, because there's so much room for improvement that, there's, everyone can just help each other out and everyone can do something, it's quite endless what you can do.
Yeah.
And I think also, yeah, it's about working together. And it's also, for me, I started in this because I thought could be a win-win, like, even though some things are like, ticking the box kind of plantation or something. First of all, I think it will get better over time. I think we're gonna evolve with the knowledge about how to create more diverse system, how to create, like more nature-like systems. But at the end of the day, also, you're planting trees, you're still doing something, I guess, useful. At least even the barest minimum for me seems quite useful and quite interesting. So,
Yeah, I agree. And it's the positive effect it will have on others as well. If they see
yeah.
you doing something good, then they'll feel obliged to do something good. And it's hopefully that herd mentality that it will spread, and then it'll help with decarbonization.
Yeah, very. Maybe tell people where they can find you. Give a quick plug for your company.
Okay, that's kind. Thank you.
I mean, you chose to come on this podcast. I want to say, I want to give you the opportunity, even though it's a small one,
Yeah,
to give a shout out to.
that's really kind.
So go for it.
Thank you. So you can find us at carbon-nada.com, and we specialize in corporate away days, carbon reporting, and also decarbonisation strategies for companies. And also we're willing to answer any questions that you might have. You can send me an email at jack@carbon-nada.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I will also put the links in the details in the description below, so you can check them out for yourself. Brilliant. And yeah, I don't know, maybe Jack, you would be open to do some, like, we could do a how to reduce your carbon footprint kind of video or something like that in collaboration, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Giving quick tips, then maybe for everybody and for companies. I mean, I don't know how much of your secret sauce you want
yeah, no, that's fine.
Give away, but I think maybe, we could all profit from that.
Okay, yeah, no problem at all. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, perfect. It was a blast, and we'll see each other. We'll hear from each other.